Good afternoon, this is David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire, and we're pleased to be with you for another video. I've had some requests if I could show an inexpensive way to make a lighter into a fire striker, and so I thought I would take the opportunity to do that today. You know, you can buy strikers for anywhere from $2 up to $30, $40 depending on the size of the striker, but you can go get one of these lighters for about, I don't know, 12, 15 cents a pack of 6 for $1 at the dollar store, and you can do the very same thing with just a little lighter if you've made some alterations to it. So what I'm going to do today is show you how to make that. What I'm going to use in order to do that is a little tool that you can carry on your pack. This is called a screw pop, and it's kind of an interesting little tool. You can throw this around any kind of a little snap ring, put it onto your pack and carry it with you. It weighs about ½ an ounce, and besides taking bottles off, it also has an integrated Phillips and flathead screwdriver on here. And let's see if Tam can get a close-up of this for you. Now this has an integrated Phillips head and flathead screwdriver on it. One of the nice things about this is that you can replace this. They carry these down at the local hardware store. Get different size Phillips, get different size flatheads, whatever it is that you want for this. You see that it has a snap on there that fits in and locks that into place. That way it can't fall out, you know, when it's riding on my pack. So again, a pretty interesting little tool. You know, I've grown accustomed to, instead of carrying a tool man all the time, I carry a little bit of a larger pair of pliers, vice grips, and so this is a nice addition to that and gives me everything that I generally use on my tool man wrapped up into one little neat tool. Some of the things I can do with this, say I've got my quick saw and I've got to change a blade, I can just simply put this in and unscrew this out in the field. And one of the nice things, it's got a ring here, and if I grip that, it gives me a lot of firm grip. So I can just go ahead and take and turn these screws out of here, replace my blade, then screw it back up. Perhaps that I have a knife that I want to change the scales on, take the scales off to get a mini kit that's inside. Or if I just have something that needs to be unscrewed with a Phillips head, I just flip that flathead over. There's a Phillips head. I can also use that to drill holes. I can put that in a piece of wood and use that to drill holes. But today what I want to do is to show you, with the use of this little tool, how we can turn this Bic lighter into a striker. Now when it's finished, the striker will look like this. This is a little bit larger one. The only thing that we have left in here is the flint and the turn wheel, which has a piece of steel on it to turn that flint, and it will make sparks. What we're trying to do is to remove all this housing. Now this will make sparks, but the sparks are inside of this housing, and under technical use, when you press this, the gas would come up, those sparks would catch that gas. One of the things we want to do is to make sure that this is totally out of gas, so we can just put it on, listen to it, and yes, it's out of gas. If it's not out of gas, you could have an explosion when you do this, so you'll make sure it's out of gas. The next thing I'm going to do is just put that flathead screwdriver into this housing and very carefully pry that housing off of there. Now as I do that, I'm holding this piece down. You can see there's a little clip right here, and that clip is going to be my friend for a few minutes because it's going to hold that flint into place. Okay, now I'm going to squeeze hard right on these two edges. You can see that this wheel has a little pin that runs through, and I'm going to squeeze that and take off this metal ring. Okay, the next step is to actually dislodge this flint. So I'm going to take and pull back on this little lever, and I'm going to pull the wheel out. Now when I pull the wheel out, the flint's going to come out, so I don't want to lose this. But I want to make sure that it doesn't pop out and get lost. Okay, there's the flint. And here's the spring that was holding the flint in. before pushing the flint out. So now I'm down to my base assembly, and all that I have to do now is to pull the rest of these parts out of here. And again, you just take your screwdriver, and a vice grip would work fine, or a pair of pliers, and you pull these parts out. So I'm gonna now you see there was another spring here that was underneath of this lever. I don't want to get that spring mixed up with the spring that ran the sparker out. So we've got the whole thing almost apart. I'm going to take my tool man for this little last piece here. Give that a good jerk. That's the piece that went down inside of this housing and allowed the fuel to come up through it. Alright, so what we've got left is basically a lighter with nothing except the two parts that house this wheel. And you can see if I put this wheel back in here, I could just scooch that in like that and that would turn. But what we have to do is to put that flint back in underneath that wheel. And that's a little bit of a tricky part, so let's see if we can do that carefully. First thing that I want to do is to load the spring in. Now you can see here the worn side of the flint and the side that's not worn. I hope you can see that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in with the worn side down. That will give me a new flint to work with. And in essence, I'm just going to go ahead and push this in. One of the things you want to be careful when you're doing this is you don't knock that spring out. Now once you get that in there, you're going to jam your screwdriver and hold that flint down. Now you really need a third hand here, so I'm going to get Tan to reach in there and to grab a hold of that other piece. I'll carefully put that on top. If we do this right, we should be able to put that in there and snap it into the two little locks, and there we go. Alright, so we've got that back in, and it wasn't that awful hard. It takes a few minutes. But one of the things we want to do, because this housing is not going to be on there anymore, is I'm going to just take a small piece of wire, piece of snare wire, and I'm going to put through these two holes. And the reason for that is that I want to make this nice and tight so that this part doesn't fall out. So I'm just going to pull that tight, and I'll wrap it around a couple times, and then I will take and twist that wire together. I want to keep it out of the way of that spark there, so get that in there and twist a few times. And what that's doing is that's making these hold tight together so that this doesn't fall out of there. You can see that it's down below the piece that sparks. You can see that spark comes out up top here. So we'll just throw that down there, get that out of the way. And you can cut this off. You can do anything you want. You wrap it around there again, keep it nice and tight, make it nice and neat. Now let's see how this works and see if it'll work the same way that a sparker does. First, take a piece of char cloth and put up here, and there you go. That quick. Piece of char cloth lights right up. If you carry cotton balls instead, stick your cotton ball in there, and that quickly. You can see that these are very, very effective. They're very lightweight. I guess this is probably, well, this is half an ounce. This is half of this, so maybe a quarter of an ounce. It'll hold together well. I would imagine this probably has a good 100 to 200 strikes in it, sparks in there. So there's how you make a lighter into a striker. You can carry with you in the bush. If you want to get fancy, you can come back on this edge back here, and you can cut this off with your saw blade or with your knife. You can take a drill and you can put a hole through this and carry this on a keychain. kind of a fancy little way to do it. We just stick them in our pockets or in our packs, and they work just fine. Well, this is David Wendell with Bushcraft on Fire, and we're pleased to be with you for this video of how to turn a lighter into a striker. All we used on this was the flathead end of this screw pop. Nice little tool for $4 or $5, and you carry that again on your backpack, and a pair of tool men, and we just use that to push that flint in there. So pretty quick and inexpensive way to make a sparker that works real well out in the bush. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon on another video.